Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, a little singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
I'm okay.
That doesn't sound very convincing.
Well, shit's falling apart out there.
It is. It is.
It's falling apart. So, I'm on my water. I figured the only thing I got going for me is to keep losing weight and keep doing Pilates. I don't know what else we can do.
But looks like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. How are you?
I'm fine. This has been a week. It's a lot going on. It's not been like there's a lot of up and down.
Yeah.
Emotionally for the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And this is definitely a dip. This week was a dip. And I think that, the key thing, the question that we're all asking is, where is Kate Middleton? Where is Princess Kate? It's all I can think about all week.
I mean, it's one of the
great mysteries. I don't have any theories.
I don't have any theories either. It would all be conspiratorial. And I don't want to be called a conspiracy theorist for actually, look, I think we just have to jump in.
I think we should.
I want to get to our guest.
Me too.
I want to hear what he has to say about everything. And it's been 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah.
Since 3 years. And I worked our ass off, put together an extensive thing on Brett Kavanaugh.
Yep.
Trying to figure out the 2 things that we couldn't get any answers to because we watched it slip away during the confirmation hearing. Is like, what about the guy's money? And hang on, there's a Kaczynski thing. And it's like there was all this stuff that was coming out during his actual Senate confirmation hearing for the Supreme Court that got brushed aside when the Christine Blasey Ford issue hijacked and it all moved into a he said, she said hearing that had nothing to do with his confirmation. And we just still don't have answers for any of these things that were coming out and coming to light and then just all got brushed aside. And now we're stuck with this guy in the court.
And the reason we're bringing this up right now today is because of this.
I think it should be a slam dunk in the Supreme Court. I have faith in them. People like Kavanaugh, who the president fought for, who the president went through, held to get into place. He'll step up. Those people will step up, not because they're pro-Trump, but because they're pro-law, because they're pro-fairness. And the law on this is very clear.
Well, the law is very clear.
The lawness is very clear. It's very clear.
The lawness.
The lawness. It's extreme lawness. That is, of course, Alina Habba, who is Trump's lawyer. So this is his lawyer going on Hannity and basically name checking Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Put on the Supreme Court. So what I thought we'd do just quickly is go through some of the highlights of the thing we wrote 3 years ago.
Perfect.
This is for the part about the money. And this is the thing. The first thing is, a single donor gave $15 million to the Judicial Crisis Network, a word that I have trouble saying, which is one of those Leonard Leo, associated groups, to promote Brett's nomination. And we do not know who this is. Right. My guess is that it's somebody whose name rhymes with Marlon Blow, but I'm not sure. It's just a guess. So, based on what we've learned in the meantime. Now, the big thing about them is that they bought this lovely house in Chevy Chase, Maryland, for $1,225,000, which is, that's not nothing. And they put down, a big, I think it was $245,000 for the down payment. And this is money that he did not have.
He did not have it.
Just didn't have it.
Right. Now, we did establish his father has quite a bit of money. And so could have come from dad, dear old dad.
We're getting to that. But okay, so he had a net worth of $96,000 at the time that he put this down payment down on this house. Which, by the way, he was making $60-something thousand a year, and his wife was really barely working. So just the mortgage on the house alone is kind of like unaffordable there. So
Yeah.
that, that's one thing. And he was asked about it during his confirmation hearing. What I want to read are Brett's quotes. This is the main thing. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
He was asked about this and he said, this is in 2018. The thrift savings plan loan that appears on certain disclosure reports was a federal government loan to help with the down payment on our house in 2006. That government loan program is available for federal government workers to help with the purchase of their first house. In our case, the loan was paid back primarily by regular deductions from my paycheck in the same way that taxes and insurance premiums are deducted from my paycheck. That loan has been paid off in full. Yeah, the year before, the entire total value of his entire thrift savings plan was, you want to guess?
I can't remember this number, but it's very low.
It's $70,000.
Yeah. It's
So
not 200 and something. So
I think I feel like there's a gap there. I'm not good at math anymore, but I feel like
I feel like there's a lie there. The gap is actually a lie. It's a lie under oath.
It's at least it's an omission of truth because he probably did use some of it for that, but not all because it wasn't there. You mentioned his father, Ed Kavanaugh, former longtime lobbyist for the perfume industry.
That's right.
Right before Kavanaugh bought this house, Ed Kavanaugh received a golden parachute package worth $13.5 million. And this is his only kid, and he's got grandkids. So, yeah, he could have easily written the check, which would be fine. No one cares.
Yeah, just say that.
Except that Brett didn't say so.
He didn't say so.
He didn't say so.
Failed to disclose.
Wasn't just the down payment. It was also the credit cards.
Oh, yeah. How much was it, the credit cards?
The credit card debt was it's like 45 grand, something like that. Yeah. Not nothing.
Not nothing.
Not as much as the down payment, but not nothing.
What about the country club memberships? There were two of those.
There were two of those, but I'm just talking about where did the money, he didn't have the money and then he had the money. Okay.
And then he had the money.
Here's what they asked him about this. And here's what he said. Our annual income and financial worth substantially increased in the last few years as a result of a significant annual salary increase for federal judges, a substantial back pay award in the wake of class litigation, blah, 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 and my wife's return to the paid workforce, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But the problem with that is that before he went back to work, the credit card debt went up, didn't go down.
Right.
And the amount of the thing was $150K before taxes, which is enough to pay off the credit cards, but not, again, the down payment, which we don't know anything about. And it could have been his dad, but he did not say so. He had plenty of opportunity to say so. And I understand before people get on me, like that woman at Mother Jones who, called me a novelist and tried to say I was wrong. I get that if your dad gives you money, you don't necessarily have to say so. You can reveal it in private. But he was asked and he skirted it. So why? Why did he skirt it? It doesn't make any sense. Just tell us. So either he's trolling us and he just wants you and I 3 years from now to have super great content, or he doesn't want to lie under oath because it didn't come from his dad. Those are the only two things that I can think of.
Well, there's private school education.
Best part.
Oh,
I'm sure his father paid for the kids to go to school.
I think that probably came from.
I'm not even going to worry.
Yeah.
Okay. When asked about Kavanaugh's hefty liabilities in 2018, the White House spokesman Raj Shah told the Washington Post, Kavanaugh built up the debt by buying Washington Nationals season tickets for playoff games for himself and a handful of friends, and then the friends paid him back, and that's how he paid off his credit cards.
Does he carry around a lot of cash? I mean, it's like, if only the defense attorneys that are coming after Fani Willis were actually on this case, maybe we would be not subjected to Brett Kavanaugh.
I don't know. Yes. Here's another quote. This is the last Brett Kavanaugh quote, and then we'll move on. As is typical with baseball season tickets, I had a group of old friends who would split games with me. We would usually divide the tickets in a ticket draft at my house. Everyone in the group paid me for the tickets based on the cost of the tickets to the dollar. No one overpaid or underpaid me for tickets. No loans were given in either direction. Now, I'm just throwing this out here. If there's like 6 people and 5 of them have a lot of money and are not like civil servants, and one of them is a civil servant with a credit card debt across 3 cards of 45 grand, why would they pick that guy to be the guy to charge all the tickets on the credit card? Like, does that make sense to you?
It doesn't. Well, here's what makes sense to me, and always
Okay.
has made sense to me about this.
Mhm.
Brett Kavanaugh has a group of people like Squeege or whatever it was, whoever was crying, Squidgy and Squiggy, Lenny and Squiggy. So he's got Lenny and Squiggy that he still cries about because of high school, because he so wants to belong. He so wants to, but he's this horrible, afflicted drinker, as we learned, right? That
Mhm.
came out around him. There's tremendous amount that came out with the FBI not following through, and then uh, but the tips that were coming in, that Doug Liman actually gathered up as a filmmaker, a director, doesn't normally do documentaries. He's the guy that brought us the Bourne franchise. He was the first one, not Public Greengrass. So brilliant director, actually, and quite a stunning human being. And he, all in quiet and private, after us, went out on his own and gathered up all of the reporting that he could get he could figure out, of people who had actually sent reports into the FBI of, the women who claimed assaults, and the men and friends that backed that up, and some of them still in his little social group. So I'm not saying that recklessly, and I don't know what's happened to that documentary. As far as I learned, it aired at Sundance. Everybody was ready to go run with it. This was last year. It was a big buzz and a big excitement, and it revealed a lot. And none of the streamers now will carry it. Someone might have even bought it and shelved it. So we've got problems there with this stuff kind of getting out. But the thing about him that rings true for me with the tickets, that's consistent with all the stories of his high school and college years and graduate school, law school years, is that I think he'll do anything to try to feel and keep a group of friends that he perceives to be sort of fun and cool and stay accepted. I think he's that guy that you want to get rid of in your friend group, but keeps finding ways to make himself valuable in some way. So I suspect he bought them all these tickets. It's like, hey, buddies, I got the tickets, right? I got you. And so it's like, oh, God, we all can't stand Brett, but he does give us free tickets, to the Nationals, or he's just that guy that will, in my opinion, I don't know him personally, but he strikes me as that guy that will do anything to stay in with a group of friends who probably don't want him around anymore, to the degree that some of them are even willing to go to a director to the FBI and then to a director and say, yeah, this is what he's really like, and spill the beans on him.
Okay.
That's my take on what that whole thing is.
All right, we got to move on.
My
We'll talk about it more
long-winded
later. We'll talk about it more later. Okay.
Talk about it more later. We are doing an after hours, everybody.
We are doing after hours.
Yeah. So if you're not a member, become a member, and we'll when the link comes out, we're going to continue this conversation along with some other threads that we're going to pull on tonight, because there's just way too much to talk about.
Okay.
All right. Next topic.
Moscow Mitch. Farewell, we hardly knew ye. The media now is like fawning over him, like they do when someone dies who everyone hates, and they have to write a nice obituary and be like, oh, maybe this horrible man wasn't so awful, but he's awful. He's responsible for all of the dysfunction of the country.
All of it.
He's responsible for the obstruction of the Republican Party. He's responsible for all of the gun deaths, pretty much all of them, all the school shootings. They're all on him. He's responsible for all these justices with Leonard Leo in that group, but Mitch was on the inside pushing these people through. He's responsible for Dobbs. He's responsible for all the people that get harmed by that. He's just awful in every way. And
he's responsible for the Trump presidency.
That too.
He really is, from soup to nuts. Anybody remembers back in 2015, 2016, if Mitch McConnell said, no, we are not having this guy on the ticket, he would not have. He was the most powerful member of the Republican Party. And he had a tremendous amount of say. He's responsible for Donald getting off for 2 impeachments with tremendous evidence against this guy, should have been impeached and then thrown to the wolves, but he kept him in there for some reason. He protected him, and his big reasoning on the second impeachment, if everybody can remember, was, well, this will be handled in the courts and the criminal system, and that's where it really should be handled. And now here we are in the courts and the criminal system, and because of his justices, we're fucked. And he's also held open. He held open, and the Senate continues to hold. There's 3 open seats in Florida. Just if we even go down to that case, forget about the DC case. We're going to get to that in a second with our guest. But the Eileen, whatever the fuck her name is, right?
Flamenco.
The flamenco, right? The reason why there were such great odds that his case would land with her is that the Senate Republicans have been refusing to confirm, still to this day, 3 other positions, as far as I know. There may be more, but I think it's the number 3. So we don't, the odds were in her favor. The odds were in the favor of it going to a Trump-friendly judge. And when they're Trump-friendly judges, they're Mitch McConnell judges.
Yep.
They're his picks.
Yeah.
His people. He was so fucking excited. This is all he cared about. This was it. This was it. When he finally got the last one in there, he crammed in and ran through that Amy Coney Barrett. He went, he's skipping down the halls of the Senate on his polio leg with this big smile on his face. Whee! He was literally dance skipping down the hall. I didn't think he could move like that. Lately, he's just been stopping, right? You need a reset button for this guy. He just freezes. But that brought him so much fucking joy that he finally delivered that for whoever it is he needs to deliver this for. I don't think it's his vision for America. It's like this guy is like a lump of coal that's been squeezed and squeezed and squeezed until this fucking fake Russian ass diamond pops out of his ass, right? That's his whole role in the Senate. That is all he has ever been charged with doing. And then in comes this beast, Donald Trump, and he's got to somehow wrangle the beast. I once said he jumped on him like a velociraptor, sucked his fangs in and drew out. That's why his hands turned fucking purple, because he was just sucking the life out of Donald to get those justices and everything else he wanted, right? There is no mob boss that can compete with Mitch McConnell if you put it up in terms of the amount of power and the amount of resources that he has been able to use dark forces and underhanded techniques in order to inflict on America. And we still don't know for whom. I want to know for whom.
Yeah, well,
what happened to his sister-in-law? Let's talk about that for a second.
For those that don't know, his sister-in-law passed. Her name was Angela Chow, Elaine Chow's sister. She was 50 years old. She was the CEO of the Foremost Group. Cool name, cool business name, which is that big shipping, operation. I believe it's the biggest one in the world. Ties right to
huge major contracts with China.
Yeah, big ties. She used to sit on the board of the Bank of China. Big ties, in that family with the Chinese government.
Yep.
So she's in Texas. Okay, it's Super Bowl weekend. It's Saturday night before the Super Bowl. She's driving in Texas in a Tesla, and she somehow winds up at the bottom of a pond. She crashes or something, and she drowns. She's in a pond, and which is weird. It's a strange story. She's by herself.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and now the law enforcement there has opened an investigation into this because they're like, this is really weird. So this is why it's weird. And this comes to me from a reader who I will not name, but who is very familiar with the area. Okay. This is, it's in Blanco County, not Blanco, Blanco County, Texas. Okay. And it's kind of between San Antonio and Austin. And there's a lot of ranches there, and there's a lot of money there. So rich people have been going there, buying these huge ranches, and they have like their little hideaways where they go, if they want to escape. Like Kate Middleton's probably there right now.
Oh, that's what she is. Yeah.
I'm not convinced that Kate Middleton isn't behind this Angela Chow. Anyway, so there's the conspiracy theory. Yeah. That's what it's like, but it's Texas. It's dry. There's not ponds as much as there's like little creeks, and there's swimming holes, and there's like the kind of tanks earthen tanks where to feed the cows and stuff.
Right.
So the speculation is she went into that. But what
Cisterns.
happens here is that people like steal cars and then ditch them, and they run them into these rivers and stuff. But as soon as there's like a drought, that it's not deep enough to hide it. So if you fly a helicopter overhead, you can see it really easily. So, and she drowned. So the point is that it's really hard to drown there. It's not. This is like in Chinatown where, he says it's the middle of a drought and the water commissioner just drowned. Only in LA, right? Now, maybe not only in LA, also in Blanco County, Texas. So this is weird stuff. And we were talking about this at lunch. We were like, it's kind of weird. And I thought, I don't know, should we be talking about this?
I know, because it feels so like, let's weave a conspiracy, and then pop, we find out
the cops are actually looking into this.
Criminal
because they also
investigation.
think, wow, this is
really
weird.
strange.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the thing. Her husband is a big venture capitalist. Jim Breyer is his name. He is part owner of the Boston Celtics, who are going to lose to the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that's all I got. I don't know. It's a weird thing. And then soon after that, Mitch announces that he's going to step down.
Bye-bye.
Probably unrelated.
Bye-bye.
Probably unrelated.
Yeah.
Coincidence, I'm sure.
I mean,
Seriously.
actually, probably so. He has been stopping and starting. I mean, he's got an engine problem. He's got his brain. He keeps freezing. They keep moving him like a failed appliance to the side and then continuing on with whatever. And I think it's really interesting how, you've got the Federalists, whatever the freedom, whatever the fuck those are, the caucus people in that party turning on him and saying, well, we want a real Republican in there and everything. It's like, this guy, you guys are, and I actually believe they believe when they're saying that. They're not just trying to be agitators. It's like, you're so fucking stupid. You don't even know that this is the guy who delivers everything for you. This is the ring to fucking kiss. Not Donald's. Donald had to kiss Mitch's ring. I'm sorry, he did. He did. So what the fuck? Who is Mitch McConnell? Who owns Kavanaugh and who owns Moscow Mitch?
We should have did it. Who owns Mitch? I'm sorry. I screwed up.
That's all right.
I screwed up. That would have been better.
Right.
All right, we got to set up this next one because it's a little bit what's the word? Obscure. So you and I have been talking a lot, and we think that that Elise Stefanik is going to be the vice president, right? And
the Donald's
running mate. Yeah. And
she certainly wants to be.
She certainly wants to be. And I think she's seeing it as like, I'm going to be the running mate. He'll win. And then I'm going to wind up being,
well, let's just see. We might have some video.
I think we might have some video here. Yeah.
Okay.
For life, Elise Stefanik. Stefanik for life. Trump makes me his VP. He croaks and then I'll be Queen Stefanik for life. Stefanik for life. Slap on the hair gel and the makeup. MAGA will not wake up. Queen Stefanik for life. Trump thinks he'll be a dictator like Mussolini, Putin, Kim, and Xi. He will beat Biden 20 minutes later. He'll drop dead, and the dictator will be me. For life, Elise Stefanik. Stefanik for life. Democracy don't appeal to me. Bow down and kneel to me. Queen Stefanik for life.
Chunk, killing it, just killing it.
My God, that brings.
We got tired of singing joy. After last week, so
it brings me joy. It brings me joy.
Good job, Chunk.
Good job, Chunk.
And now we have it on record that that might happen. I want to say
might happen.
We saw it first. We predicted it first. Okay. Our guest is the former Deputy Assistant Director for the FBI's Counterintelligence Department. He's the author of Compromised: Counterintelligence and the Threat of Donald J. Trump, and the co-host of Cleanup on Aisle 45 with our friend Allison Gill.
Thunderstruck.
I think I did the wrong one. Pete
You did
Strzok,
the
everybody.
wrong
I'm sorry, I did the wrong one.
That's all right. We're gonna play it. We'll play it.
We'll play
on
it.
your way out.
That's great. That's
We're
fine.
gonna play it on your way out.
How are you?
Hi, Pete
I'm
Strzok.
good. I'm impressed. Every time I come on, the production value just goes up and up and up. And Chunk, the beginning, like at the end, was that Eileen Cannon looking like Bellatrix Lestrange playing
Yeah.
bottom
Yes,
Carter's
yes,
character,
flipping us
kind of
off.
go
Yes.
Tuesday or something from. Yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
Flipping us off.
And apparently,
yeah.
Yeah, and now
That's been
he
there for a
sings,
long
too.
time now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chunk
and-
sings. He sang for us. That was Chunk, everybody.
It was Chunk.
Singing.
Yeah, and
All
you can
right.
tell, I think, Elise Stefanik is trying so hard for the VP nomination because she's trying. It's like when your daughter discovers makeup for the first time in her life, and you're like, "Oh, sweetie," and those makeup mirrors have different settings of light intensity. But whatever it's Trump is such a venal man, and we can talk about Alina Habba and the other, Hope Hicks and the people he does surround himself with, and Cassie Hutchinson's stories about he wanted me or whoever to put the highlights in their hair. He is such a venal, misogynistic, horrible person. Frankly, I can't envision him ever selecting Elise for his vice presidential partner, but we shall see. We shall see.
Well,
y'all?
maybe she'll get a little before and after makeover with
It's
Glam
like
Squad, with
doubling
Ivan-
up on
with
the Ozempic,
Ivanka's
right?
Glam
We got
Squad.
8 months, few
Yeah.
months to go, and let's see how
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
This is like a John Hughes movie from hell. It's like it comes to the end of the.
Yeah, shaking, get the the snow onto the drawing,
And then she winds up with
Breakfast
the,
Club. They're like not many people who've John Hughes movies.
I think it's going to be fun. So, okay, so the title of this episode is Immunity and Delay, and it came out this week that the Supreme Court, after being asked to rule on this ruling about immunity, and then saying, "No, we're not going to do that because the answer really is duh. Of course, he's not immune." Now they've decided that they're going to do it anyway, even though nobody can seem to think of any reason why, other than Alina Habba asked. So, what's your take on this, Pete? What's going on?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the court does not want to be in the position to be the one to disqualify Trump. And they look at themselves as the highest court in the land, and by extension of their wisdom, that they don't want any courts to be the ones determining whether or not Trump should be president. So, in the first instance, I think, don't ever underestimate the ego behind a lot of these folks. And even if they thought the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals judged correctly, their ability to weigh in on such a weighty question, I think, was always going to point them to do it. What I worry about is not that they're going to say, "Oh yeah, he has, any president or Trump has immunity for things," but they will decide a very narrow question, and it is a narrow question, right? Whether or not official acts as alleged are immune from prosecution, have some finding that gets remanded back down to the district court for them to decide this issue about whether or not what Trump did as alleged is or isn't an official act. And so you have to go through all these additional sort of litigation steps before you get to the point where you can move to trial. And, the soonest I think we'll know is following, again, when it suited them in Florida, they turned around and when it suited them in Nixon, turning over the tapes for the Nixon White House. They did that in days. And, they've scheduled oral arguments for late
April.
And the question is, do they release any sort of decision before the end of term, or do they wait and release it, into June, beginning of July, in which case, particularly if there's any sort of additional litigation that needs to go on at the district court level, there's no way it's going to happen before the elections. So that's in some question. Certainly Eileen Cannon, based on what's going on today, there is no doubt in my mind that trial is not going to occur before the election. Based on what's going on in Fulton County today,
If at all.
Right, if at all, Fulton County, and then you say, okay, well, and if Trump gets elected, the federal cases are going to get dumped anyway. And you say, well, at least we have Georgia and we have New York. But Georgia, there's some question about what's going on. And, I am sympathetic to people saying it's inappropriate that Fani Willis should have her personal life to herself and that she didn't get there's no evidence that she got any kickbacks from hiring Nathan Wade. But there's still some question about whether this standard of an appearance of impropriety is something that just by itself is something that Judge McAfee could rule on. It is not, and people get upset when you suggest, well, there might be an issue here that somehow that's like bashing Fani. It's not. It's just the reality. And the people who know
Georgia law that I've read and listened to are split. The point being, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that she, and by extension the entire DA's office, gets DQ'd. And if they're out, that dies. And so then we're left with Alvin Bragg. And again, it's not a throwaway charge. It is the least serious of all of them. I'm glad people are finally saying, look, it doesn't matter. The level of severity doesn't matter. It's still a criminal violation. It is still a righteous criminal accusation. And if he's found guilty, he still should and may face time in jail. But that, one New York case before the election is a far cry from what, I think Americans would like to know, whether or not a jury of his peers find him guilty of fomenting and, pursuing an insurrection.
Right.
But I'm increasingly doubtful we'll get there.
Yeah. It's
But
a dark moment.
He's got to come up with $500 million in scratch somewhere. Now I'm sure there's a Saudi wealth fund or a Turkish wealth fund or a Qatari wealth fund or somebody there who might hook a brother up. Jared got $2 billion and he needs $440 for the New York State civil trial, and he's looking at 80-ish for Eugene 2 and another $6-8 million for Eugene 1. And we were talking right before the show, like if you look at spending a career in government, in intelligence, where everybody has a security clearance, the rigorous process you have to go through before the government will grant you a security clearance, wherever you're at, FBI, CIA, NSA, State Department, wherever. There are all these different categories of things, and any problem in any one area can just prohibit you from ever having a clearance. And if you go down them and frame it in the context of Donald Trump, he hits it time and time again. I mean, mishandling of sensitive information. Yeah, in spades, extreme debt and financial difficulties. Yeah, very much that. Potential substance abuse problems. You be the judge of, sniffly. Criminal history and criminal record. Very much so. But you just, foreign financial and other entanglements. But they're like 13 categories. And easily, and listeners who are so interested can go on the DNI's website and pull them up. There's like 13 categories. Trump hits 9, 10. Look, he would never, if he applied for a security clearance as an employee of the U.S. government, he would never get a clearance, period, full stop. Much like if he was applying to be a shift manager at a Hardee's, he would not get hired as an adjudged sexual predator. The only job in a sane world or insane world that he has a chance of getting is the presidency, which is nuts. So I'm not happy to see that this week.
I think that the jury in this case is the American people voting. And my only hope is that this stuff, everything just gets so ridiculously crazy and awful and glaringly bad that people just vote in droves, which I think they're going to do anyway because of Dobbs, but because if it's close, it's not going to work out for us. I don't think. I think it's going to be bad.
100%. IVF has just taken Dobbs, and to the extent anybody could possibly have forgotten the impact of Dobbs, the whole IVF debate has brought that front and center. The smartest thing any state could do is like what Ohio did during the midterms: put questions about women's reproductive rights and access to healthcare on the ballot. Put things about marijuana on the ballot. You do that, it is going to be a blowout for Biden. Now, do I think the Democratic Party has sense enough and is organized enough to do it? We'll see. But, it's just like Fonnie Willis said on the stand, a man is not a plan. A prosecution is not a solution. The solution is getting out and voting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and we went through this with Mueller, right? Mueller, Jack Smith, Fonnie Willis, but that is not the savior to this threat of authoritarianism. It's us. So
yeah. Well, America, though, I will say, Greg has heard me say this a lot. We have some nations like Russia have a strongman addiction. They don't know how to get away from that. We don't have that. We have a hero addiction. You can say savior. I mean, that's certainly a strand of it, but it's really this thought and this hope and this belief that some white knight's going to show up, right? Or a Luke Skywalker, the ultimate underdog, but he has secret powers that nobody knows, and they're going to come out right at the right moment, and woo! And we just have that. It's part of our mythology. It's part of who we are. It's why in the profession of writing and storytelling, you learn the hero myth in 101, and everybody, it's got even a page count to where at this point, by page 33, the hero better be doing X, Y, and Z, or your movie's not going to get made, and it's not even going to make sense as a screenplay to the people reading it. So it's a real problem, and it comes with this other thing that I find with this denial that Greg and I also talk about a lot, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, where what I find people saying of like, well, it looks like when you deliver the truth, like, Fani fucked up. Sorry, guys. She fucked up, right? There's a lot of ways that there were a lot of choices on the table of how to handle things, and she picked the wrong ones based on the arena she was in and what she was going to find herself up against, the kind of dark, evil, bad guy forces. You underestimated the bad guy in this situation and how they would pull out all the stops on you. And you should have known better if you were bringing a RICO case, because this comes with RICO, right? So you deliver that bad news to people, or any kind of bad news, and you will get not just a pushback, but a fantasy narrative attached to it, I find, from a lot of people. Well, if they do that, the Supreme Court throws it out, then people are going to take to the streets, or, well, then this big thing will happen somehow that will solve all the problems. And I don't know how to get people out of that wish fulfillment and that hero myth without demolishing their spirit, so that they, we need people activated to go out and vote. I don't want to bring people down, but I just want you in fucking reality about what's going to happen. What's going to happen if this guy gets in? There's no undoing it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's funny. I'm laughing because I've got, my well-thumbed, Joseph Campbell, hero of 1,000 faces, or whatever, the sort of mythos of like, all these different cultures, how everybody has the same sort of cycle, the hero cycle, which makes me chuckle because I find it compelling, and it is interesting how much it plays into, so many different dramas. But I think people want a couple of things. They want somebody to inspire them and rally them. They want somebody to do the work for them. They want to feel a sense of of importance, of being a player in this drama. You're not only watching the movie, but you are on the team in the movie. And I think that has a tendency to obscure reality sometimes, and every time. And you're completely right. I mean, we have to be able to criticize ourselves. When I look, one of the biggest things I have, and one of the most confounding things, is when you talk to people who are in particular Trump supporters, and you see it now. There have been several recent episodes where folks go out and they're interviewing Trump supporters, and they give them all these, statements, and they attribute it to Joe Biden, and they're like, oh, no, I missed it. And they're like, oh, it's terrible. He's senile. He's not fit for office. And they're like, oh, I screwed that up. I'm sorry. Donald Trump said it. And on a dime, they pivot, and they're like, oh, no, well, he's, and start providing justifications. We have to be able to criticize ourselves. We have to be able to criticize that ability to say it's not by if saying something didn't go right, or something needs improvement, or something is a policy problem. We have to be able to do that in the context of improving something. I mean, that idea of taking, perfecting, the search for turning America into something it's good, but continuing to strive to make it greater. That's baked into the founders, this idea of forming a more perfect union. Right? I mean, that it isn't perfect. And to get it perfect is an ongoing process where we have to be able to critique and criticize and polish. And the minute we start saying, well, my guy, my gal is beyond reproach, we lose that. And I don't know how. I mean, I think by and large, most of, I think, in particular, mainstream Democrats are able to do that. I'm concerned that the diehard 20 to 30% Trump supporters, he can do no wrong. And I don't know how you talk. I don't know how you reach somebody like that. But at the end of the day, at some point, Trump will, have one too many hamburgers and, pieces of fried chicken, and he's going to go. And how you reach those people who have turned not just Trump the person, but Trump the idea into really the appeal of authoritarianism and the appeal of whoever it is ignoring the truth. is a challenge. And I think there's all kinds of nastiness to it, right? I mean, there's racism behind that. There's a white, a white nationalism behind that. There's a certain Christian nationalism. There are a bunch of really ugly things, I think, that were never resolved after the Civil War and Reformation that unfortunately play into a lot of this. But that's what we got to figure out, how to have that dialogue, and more than a dialogue, change minds.
Well, I want to wrap it around to what you brought up before with the security clearance. Like, this guy could not, here's the list of things, and he rings every bell of like, would never get a security clearance. Especially when it comes to like foreign influence, ties to foreign money, all of this, because I find the Hunter Biden thing, and Eric Swalwell did a great, if people could read the questions he asked in the closed door questioning of Hunter Biden subpoena, and like of this sort of mythology that he was somehow on a payroll for China and was diverting those funds to his father. That's the claim. So Joe Biden, while a VP, while in office, not this time, not this presidency, but before, was reaping benefits from a foreign government via his son. And that causes a thing that we should then go impeach Joe Biden for. This is what the Republicans have been saying. Well, none of it's true. It's all made up. It's all garbage. It came from, Smirnoff, of course.
What's Dirty Smirnoff. Alexander Smirnoff.
Alexander, like, it was like, oh, all of a sudden there's a Russian.
Smirnoff on ice.
Surprise, surprise. There's a Russian intelligence operation in the middle of this whole thing. And then Swallow was like, only asking Hunter Biden is like, did your father's son-in-law get $2 billion from the Saudis? Did you get trademarks? Did you, like, asking all the questions of all the things that the Trump family did while he was actually in office, and his kids were appointed, right? Had positions in government, had advisory positions. So, which Hunter Biden does not have now, never has had, blah, 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 blah. So that was a wonderful line of questioning, but it made me think, when you were going through the security questions, is there any way we can strengthen for our elected officials and cabinet members and advisors in there the FARA laws? Is there something else we can sort of request of Congress in the likelihood that we end up with a second term of Joe Biden and maybe even a majority in Congress? Like, how can we fix this so that there's bigger consequences for these elected officials that take Russian intelligence and benefit from a foreign country's interference in our democracy, if not are completely beholden to them financially or for other reasons? Is there anything we can do? Anything, because if we can't give this motherfucker a security, if we can't get anybody that's running for office, get them through a security clearance, what can we do? What kind of consequences can we bring?
Yeah,
what can we do?
I don't want these
crazy fucking guys in there anymore. I'm sick of it, Pete.
Look, it's a tough question, because at the end of the day, the access to the entire idea about classified information, setting aside Atomic Energy Act classified data, which is a weird little side thing. In general, the president is the ultimate authority on deciding what the classification system is, who has access to it, and what and how much they're going to have. And so what that means is, Jared Kushner, the intelligence community, said, look, no way, no how, this guy should not have access to top secret SAI compartmented information. And Trump said, okay, I hear you, but I don't care. Give it to him anyway. And that's the president's right. Trump can go and share foreign information with Sergei Lavrov and Ambassador Kislyak right after he fired Comey. He can sit down and share classified information with the Prime Minister of Japan or whoever as president. At
Mar-a-Lago.
At Mar-a-Lago. What that is, for better or worse, that is the president's prerogative. After he leaves, it's an entirely different thing, and why he's in complete, the majority of his defense down the Mar-a-Lago case is absolute and utter bullshit. But while the president, he has extraordinary latitude, including, by the way, nothing stopping him from saying when he arrives, I want all the senior executives within CIA and NSA and State Department and FBI go through the FTC records and find me every one of those people who's donated to a Democrat, get that list and say, all of you people no longer have a security clearance.
Oh.
At which point, and that is not appealable. There's no labor right to a security clearance. You can't go to court and do it. I mean, there are any number of things he could do that are terrible. And when it comes to how do you stop it, the way you stop it is to pass. I mean, we have an emoluments clause in the Constitution, but that
And then
didn't
no one
stop
enforced it.
him having nobody enforced it. You know, having
have to have
the
originalists
Trump
to
Hotel
enforce
right
that.
there. That, you know, any number of people roll through town. Everybody knows the way to get to Donnie is you grease his palm by getting a couple of suites for a couple of weeks, and $150,000 later, suddenly he's giving you whatever you wanted. Unless you, one, enforce those laws, or two, get enough consensus between, you know, both chambers of Congress to pass enhanced legislation, which you're not going to do as long as the Republican Party is in thrall to Donald Trump and holds the majority in either or both chambers. God forbid they get both chambers. You're not going to do anything. So I think, and again, it is, you're right, and I heard Swalwell and Hunter too, like personally was saying things about, don't y'all care that the president's son-in-law got $2 billion with a B, $2 billion from a foreign sovereign wealth fund? Doesn't anybody? And what's interesting, apparently there were some, by some accounts, like some Republican voices in the room that said, yeah, you know, we care. Not the ones that are the loudest, but if the books, if the rules that are on the books are not enforced, then the prospect of saying, well, we want enhanced rules, I just see as unlikely. And the fact of the matter is, we've never had to deal with it. Jimmy Carter walked away from a fucking peanut farm. Think about that. Said, I am concerned about owning this peanut farm in Georgia and the potential conflict that might pose to me, or the appearance of conflict as the president of the United States, if I have financial interest, not in some 80,000 acre, you know, W.R. Grace-sized peanut plantation on half the state of Georgia, but a little family peanut farm.
Right.
I'm going to divest. And that was the sort of standard operating procedure that for 240 years, however long, had guided the way presidents behave, until old Donnie Trump rolled into town and said, fuck you all, and I dare you to go after me. And guess what? Nobody did. Or they tried. And by the way, can I get a little pet peeve?
Tried.
Little pet peeve. Republicans have the House, and I get nothing is going to come out of than James Comer bumblefucking through, you know, his oatmeal. The Republicans, or the Democrats, control the Senate. And I have to, let me caveat by saying, an extraordinary amount of respect to the Senate Judiciary Committee for getting a lot of judges nominated and through. But setting that aside, what the fuck else are they doing? Are they looking at Jared's $2 billion for the Saudis? Are they looking at any of the, you know, the patents that were given to Ivanka from the PRC? Are they looking at anything having to do with Trump? Are they looking at the Supreme Court? And again, Sheldon Whitehouse, God bless him, made an issue of saying we need a code of conduct for the Supreme Court, but really did not a single hearing? Wrote a letter to John Roberts and said, well, no, we're not going to respond. And okay, great. That's fine. Thank you.
I actually think Chuck Schumer is going to go down as the worst Senate majority leader in the history of the nation. This is where I'm at with it, because he continues to operate as if Mitch McConnell is still Senate majority leader. Yeah. And then what will happen is, people in the ecosphere that are Democrats or or liberal leaning, supporters will say, well, they can't do anything because they don't have a majority. And it's like, they've got the same majority that motherfucker had, and he got everything done. Yeah. So what are you talking about? Like, it's blame it on Manchin and Sinema only. It's like, well, we still need 2 more. And it's like, yeah, but Mitch wouldn't need 2 more. So, and he can't just be an aberration. It's got to be a way to be effective in this job.
And yet you still, even though they're in the minority, you're still hearing from the Republicans. You still hear Mitch saying crazy stuff. You hear, Ron Johnson, the bratwurst king of Sheboygan, not the sausage king of Chicago, but you hear him babbling about Andrei Derkach in Ukraine and Burisma, and they're in the minority, but they're still getting more play in the media than the majority Democrats are. How can that be? Yeah. How do they have any ability to get that narrative out there? And it's like I'm looking around. Where's Dick Durbin? Where are these people? And what
The
are
best
they
that-
doing to seize the narrative and do some positive? Again, judges, President Obama was great, but if you compare and contrast the record of getting judges onto the bench, Biden and Senate Democrats have done an amazing job and have to give them credit for that. But I don't really want to go much more than that.
I don't know. We had one really good senator who was good at like, giving it to them, and she's the vice president now. So that's
Yeah.
kind of good. Now I know you have to go. You got to go, right? You got the heart out. I don't want to keep you. We promised you could leave at 8:50, and it's now 8:53. So what I'm gonna do to make up for my fuck up from before, I'm gonna play the hype song on your exit music.
I have to props to in the comments Jim Williams, who reminded me Abe Froman. I had forgotten Ferris Bueller. The Sausage King of Chicago is the Ron Johnson.
Nice.
Bratwurst King of Sheboygan. And we have to. I will only plant this as a seed for you and Chunk. We were talking before the show about and this is me delaying so you don't have time to play the audio. Alina Haba, she has one of those names that I always thought there are any number of show tunes you can do, because my thought, and we had emailed back and forth about this, Alina Doolittle from My Fair Lady or Pygmalion, just the rough around the edges Cockney attorney who Dr. Chris Kise brings her in to teach her proper law, or even Alina Perrone, the Santa Trumpanista.
Alina Perrone.
She has one of those names that's very, from the small town parking garage girl practicing law to the big time. Anyway.
Well,
sorry,
listen, we
I'm
just have to
rambling.
keep
I'll let
working
you
on the
go.
lyrics, and then I think magically it will appear. We can make your dreams come true here.
It'll appear.
You'll
have to
That's
come
what
back.
you are like. You are my Disney World. That is where
your
you're going. I'm
Disney
going
World,
to the
baby.
5-8 where all my dreams come true.
That's right.
That's it. There's our pull quote. Okay. Pete, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It was always great to see you.
Yep. Peace.
Take care.
Peace out, Pete Strzok.
All right.
I love
Always
him so
great
much.
to have
What,
him.
you're not going to play it?
He doesn't want me to play it. He said
We're
he didn't
playing
want
it
me to
at
play
the end. It's my
I'm not gonna
favorite
play.
thing.
If he doesn't want me to play it, I'm not playing
We're going to play it at the end.
I don't want to embarrass him,
No, he's gone. He's out.
Sensitive to the, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't.
He's the greatest. I love
I
Pete
can't
Strzok.
believe I messed it up. I feel bad. I tried.
Yeah, that's all right.
I did try.
The weird part was that our audio was still live behind the image. So
No, you were giving
thank God I didn't go flush the toilet or something.
it's
All
called
right.
Pete Hype Vid. That's what it says in the thing.
All right.
You know what? Hold on. He said it's okay, so we're gonna play it now. You want to play it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thunderstruck with Pete Strzok.
I think is that Chunk too? I don't even know.
That's Chunk. Yeah.
I feel like it's good to play it at the end because it said you've
It says
been
you've been. Exactly.
Thunderstruck. So we've
It
been
is-
thunderstruck.
We've
We've
been
been
thunderstruck. I know
been
someone
there.
said, Greg, play it later. Someone said, please don't do this now.
Well, but the thing is, if you play it, then I can put him on the screen, and when it's over, he's there.
He's there.
Yeah, that's it's always the
All right. Listen,
transitions. I have problems with transitions.
you do.
you know?
You really do. And so I'm gonna segue us. Let's get into this next topic.
Okay.
I want to get to our after hours, and we'll remind everybody again about that. But okay, the news didn't get any better this week. We had all of our domestic garbage, everything falling apart in the courts around Trump and holding. I also think we just don't know how to have a criminal. We don't know how to handle a criminal with power. We don't.
Yes, we do. You put Merrick Garland in charge of the Department of Justice, and you let him do his thing.
Oh,
He'll get his man. He's like the Canadian Mounties. He might get his man in 2068 when the entire
it's gonna be a
when the
while.
world is a husk and everyone's on Mars. But I had that. That was an ad I did on Prevail a long time ago. Right?
I remember the animation for it. Him crawling out of the hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
All right. So, there's another criminal
Yes.
wreaking havoc. I thought this week was I like the word. We did have Moscow Mitch. We resurrecting that because we want to know who owns him. But you came up with this term of Bibi the Butcher. I had not heard that anywhere else. I think it is quite appropriate. And I, as if anyone missed that news, yes, there was a confluence of circumstances, but because of the situation, the devastating situation that Bibi has created for the Palestinian people, they are starving. I think it's okay to say that this is, in my viewing of it, he is trying to exterminate an entire people. I don't think this is anything short of that. I think there's everyone here knows how this is not about Hamas or supporting Hamas when it comes to me. October 7th needed justice. A response was required to that heinous terrorist act. I do think all of the video that they have that the Hamas terrorists took while they were raping and murdering and burning and beheading innocent civilians in their homes, mothers, fathers, children, grandparents, kidnapping, that all, and gleefully taking video as trophy. I think all of that should be released. I think everyone should be allowed to see that if they can see that, so that they can understand who and what Hamas is. We know that Iran is backing it. We know that the Hamas keeps going to Russia, keeps going
They do.
down,
With Putin.
go to the Kremlin.
They did it right before. They were 6 weeks before they were in fucking Moscow meeting with Putin.
6 weeks before they were in fucking Moscow. And they also know they got quite a bit of support from, guess who? Bibi the fucking Butcher.
Yeah.
So the Palestinian people are different. These are innocent civilians. And he set up a situation where people who are desperate and starving and are being moved in reckless manners, bombed, terrorized, murdered, and then told, you got to get out of the north, go to the south, you got to get out of the south, go over here, and then who knows? Okay, we're going to have some food trucks, we're going to have some aid show up, we're going to have some food show up, and it's chaos. And there's trampling and stampeding and shots fired and 100 and something people dead in a day. He's a fucking butcher. Now, the people of Israel have been trying to get rid of this man. He is 100% a strongman. This is exactly what we're going to be dealing with if Trump gets in. You're going to be dealing with someone who will not leave, who will find a way to be what Trump calls president for life, prime minister for life, whatever you want to call it. Xi. They all want that. They want Putin. They want Xi. This is the new bullshit that we're talking about, an axis of evil, right? And Bibi's at a nexus. He's right up there. I don't think it's just that he's trying to avoid his own criminal prosecution.
Although that's part of it. That is part of it.
It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
As he doesn't want to be, as long as he's in power, he can fuck everything up to a certain degree, including just mass slaughter, so that he doesn't have to face a single consequence for taking bribes and all of his fraud that he's found guilty of. I don't think it's the only thing motivating Donald to try to get the presidency back. There's something much darker at work with these men, and the Israeli people cannot get rid of him. They keep protesting. There are hundreds of thousands of Israelis in the streets every day leading up to October 7th. If anybody remembers that was the pressure was on. It looked like he might finally be outed. And
Yeah.
then boom, we have this day of terror by Hamas, backed by Bibi's same benefactor in the Kremlin.
Yeah.
So he's stuck in there. I think finally we're hearing from our news outlets. They're finally saying after this last massacre of Bibi's that, then setting the stage for all these people to die while they're starving, people dying. Just wrap your head around that. Dislocated, bombed out of their homes, families, so many of them children, starving, trying to just get fucking food at an aid stop. And it was so terribly managed and handled that there were stampedes, people died, and then they were shot because they started running at the IDF. So I just, when you hear the generals that are the pro-Israel hawks showing, the retired admirals, U.S. folks, showing up on morning news going, yeah, Israel's gone too far. It's too far. And this guy's got to go. And, and knowing that the Israeli people cannot get rid of him. They can't. They have been trying and trying and trying. They've done everything you're supposed to do. Really peaceful protests, right? At a time of war, even showing up and holding non-violent protests and cannot get this guy out. They can't get rid of him. So the rest of the world needs to come to the table.
Yeah, it's time.
Everybody who lives somewhere else that also is an Israeli citizen has to speak up, stop supporting this man, call for his removal, let him run off somewhere if that's what it takes, so that the slaughter can end. He's a butcher.
Yeah. And he can't manage a peaceful solution at this point. There's not going to be negotiations with Bibi and Hamas. And for the record, we've been saying this since day one. As soon as this happened, I thought, Bibi's going to do something really bad. And this is what they want. They want him. They're luring him into a trap. Oh. And this is why. And, that's exactly what happened. And I think part of it is also he knows that if Trump gets elected, he's going to have carte blanche to just pave that place.
That's right.
Kill everybody there and pave it. And Trump isn't going to do a damn thing. So that's another thing. If you actually care about Gaza and the people who live in Gaza, knock off the Genocide Joe shit. Because one guy is going to allow that to happen and one isn't. So right. Biden's he's trying to thread a very, very difficult needle here. And I know that they're doing diplomacy to try to make this work. Anytime there's been a ceasefire or hostages have been released, it's because Biden and the State Department have made it happen. It's not fucking Netanyahu and it's not these Hamas guys. It's the Qataris and it's us, right? Doing this stuff. Yeah. So now I think having already laid the groundwork, what Biden did by going there right after the attack, by showing up for the Israeli people, by visiting the families of the hostages, which fucking Bibi didn't do because he's a disgusting human. He has no empathy at all. He has a lot of slack there, so he can now come down morally if he needs to, and I think he should. I think it's probably past time, but now it's really time.
It's really time, and I'm so glad you said. I think that is what I think. Bibi's just waiting for Trump to get in. I think he's going to keep doing what he's doing. He's going to keep
bad for
slaughtering
Biden.
Innocent people because it's bad for Biden. It helps get his guy back in there, and then there won't be any consequences for him.
Yeah. And, he's just what he wants. He was at the UN or wherever it was showing a map of the territory and what he foresaw. This was a couple of years ago, and there's no Palestine there. So we have to have the two-state solution, and Hamas and Bibi are not going to be the ones to negotiate it. So that's just how it is. Now, one point I want to make, because we could talk about this forever, and you and I are not going to arrive at a solution tonight.
No.
I want to make one thing clear is that the difference between Israel and the United States is that they have a parliamentary system and we do not. And the
Yeah.
problem, the flaw in the parliamentary system is that when the parties internally are fucking fighting with each other, it allows this schmuck, Bibi, to get back into power. Here in the United States, Trump loses the election in a landslide in November, which he's going to do. It's goodbye. That's it. He's not going to maybe come back in 2 years because the Tlaib and AOC joined forces with somebody behind the scene. Like, that doesn't happen here. So there's bad things about that, but there's good things about it. And the good thing about it is it's a clean break, right? He's going to get voted out, and that's the end of the line for Trump.
Well, he got voted out before, and he still has complete control over the Senate and the Congress. So, and it's all about not getting aid to Ukraine, right? Which,
I didn't get to ask Pete about that. Yeah,
we didn't get to ask Pete about that, but I sent a little reminder to you before the show of this is why McCarthy, if everybody remembers, McCarthy was voted out because he tried to approve the aid package to Ukraine, and then he was out.
Yeah.
That's the one line you can't cross with Donald.
Right. Or his guys. His guys are just
doing what he wants. You
pivot real quick here.
You cannot cross the line with Donald.
First of all, you've got Comer and Jordan just spewing Russian propaganda. You've got Matt Gaetz getting rid of McCarthy, as you said, right before this Ukraine thing, because he didn't want money to go there, because probably he's not allowed to. Yeah. And this Mike Johnson guy is installed. I didn't put the pictures to show on the screen, but the photos of them meeting where Mike Johnson is on the couch in the Oval Office and Kamala Harris is glaring at him, and Mike Johnson looks like Pinocchio. One day I'm going to be a real boy. I mean, it's so pathetic, this guy. But he's a national security risk. He will not budge on Ukraine. Everyone there, including Republicans, wants a vote. World leaders are begging this motherfucker to have a vote, and he won't do it. I trust Lavrov in the Oval Office more than I trust that motherfucker. He's a bad guy. He's on the other team. That's
why he's Speaker of the House. Everyone's like, why is this guy Speaker? Who is he? Where did he come from? Because he's the one dude that is controlled and owned to the degree that he will never approve an aid package going through on Ukraine. We have the answer because it's happened right in front of us.
Why is it happening? Find the adopted son, media, CIA, FBI. Find the kid. Find the kid. He's there. He was adopted. It's weird. Find him and interview him, please, for the love of fucking God. Break a goddamn story.
No, that's never going to happen.
I don't know. The media can find people when they want. They haven't found Kate Middleton.
Not Kate Middleton.
No, she's in hospital.
I didn't even know she was missing. I
read a great article on The Ringer about it. It was this whole thing. She's not been seen since Christmas in public. But she had it.
Not well.
She's not well. I know she had abdominal surgery.
Poor woman alone. Okay.
I know. Anyway.
All right. Now, let's do our announcements.
Okay. After hours.
Let's see if we can find is there a link? Did we put a link together?
Yes, the link is there. I actually did it in advance this time because I knew it was happening. The link is there. Right, it's all good.
Throw that in there, and then I'll throw it up on screen as soon as I see it.
But it's there. It's already on the YouTube page. It's
on the YouTube page. Okay, great.
It's easy to find. The other thing I want to announce is I had Dahlia Lithwick on my podcast today. Yes. So she's great. That was really interesting, talking about SCOTUS and her theories about that. And it was kind of fun because at one point she made the case. We recorded it over the weekend, and she was talking about the IVF, the embryos, and saying that the state was going to separate the embryos and how that's like family separation.
Oh boy.
And then she wrote a piece about it like later in the week. So go read the piece. I tweeted it a couple of days ago, but great conversation with her. She's great. A lot of fun.
Yay. I love Dahlia. Yeah. Okay. The two of you are fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun combo. All right. Here we go. Our last segment. You have something to read? I believe?
This is the conservative counter-reformation. This is another kind of announcement, I guess. On Tuesday, I did my deep dive into, this Project 2025 thing, which is basically the Heritage Foundation, a bunch of partners. There's 80 groups. Leonard Leo is backing 40 of them per Tom Carter. So this is a very much a Leonard Leo joint, right? Even though his name isn't on it. And so this is basically, they get all these fuckaloos to write, what they're going to do when they're in power. So Christopher Miller, how he will reform the Defense Department, and Ezra Cohen Watnick, what he'll do, and this and Peter Navarro, and how he'll get out of jail and do the thing that he's going to do with the fight. Like, it's all these people that even reading their names make you go, oh my fucking God. So, but the head of the Heritage Foundation is this guy named Kevin Roberts, who, like Leonard Leo, radical Catholic weirdo. There's a great piece, which I linked to in my piece, by Roan Tempest on a site called WyoFile from Wyoming, WYO File. Really good profile on this guy, who's kind of an interesting person. So he wrote the foreword to this book, which is 940 pages long, whatever it is. It's called Mandate for Leadership. And it's a transition project. So what they want to do is they want to get in there and they want to ram this shit through. Okay. I just want to read a couple of key points in case people missed my thing. I think it's good to read. This is just to give you a flavor of what we're in for if Trumpy boy wins, because this is who's going to be running the country. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. This is Kevin Roberts in the foreword to Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise, the Heritage Foundation. Quote, okay. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. They do not like woke. They call it the Great Awakening. Okay. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, which he calls SOGI, SOGI, diversity, equality, and inclusion, DEI, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights. I don't understand how the fuck that makes sense. But moving on, out of every federal rule, agency, regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. That means goodbye gay marriage. It means goodbye to trans people will just be criminalized completely. They're just going to be able.
You have no rights you won't have any rights in the workplace.
No, it'll be like, oh, hey, I'm going to pinch your ass. We're back to Mad Men times. Yeah. By the way, if you're black or Jewish, you're not allowed to work here. Welcome back. That's what you're going to get if this motherfucker wins. Okay, next. Pornography. And, I don't know what this
guy knows about. The projection. Tell us what you're obsessed over.
Oh, but wait, it gets better.
Oh my God.
Manifested in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, for instance, So that's how Kevin Roberts defines pornography. It's transgender ideology and also sexy kids. That's his idea. When he thinks porn, this is how he defines it.
That's where his brain goes?
That's what it's written here. I may be reading it wrong. If I am, Kevin, my apologies, but that's, I'm an English major. This is pretty much what you said. That's how pornography is manifested. So is not a political Gordian knot inextricably binding up disparate claims about free speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. It has no claim to First Amendment protection. First of all, yes, it does. Okay, moving on. Its purveyors are child predators and misogynistic exploiters of women. Not all, some, not all. Okay. Their product is as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Pornography should be outlawed. The people who produce and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered sex offenders. And telecommunications and technology firms of facilitated spread should be shuttered. Okay. Porn is a really big industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in this country. Why are we going to shut? Are these guys like capitalists? We're just going to shut this down?
I think it's more like they're going to, this feels like paving the way to defining what is pornographic. And that's been part of the, we go back to all the Larry Flint trials and everything that he fought for, is that there was from the same motherfuckers, the same, Christian fundamentalist, crazy, Christo-fascist, it's all coming out of that bucket, right? Of that wanting to dictate every single societal term and preference and anything that has to do with human beings, right? They wanted to actually dictate what terms applied and where they applied, right? So this is what we're going to call this pornography. This is what pornography is, and we're going to label it wherever we want, and we're going to criminalize it. And it's just a tool for then just going after things that you don't like and people you don't like.
Yeah.
And stuff like, I don't like lavender oil. It's pornographic.
Yeah.
You know, get rid of it. Right.
It's like domestic terrorists. You're a terrorist. You're a
terrorist. Right. Like, I don't like lipstick. I don't like, maybe they don't, my lips are too provocative. That's pornographic. You're going to prison.
Actually, time out for 1 second. I have to go to the library before it closes because I need to buy some porn.
Right.
Nobody gets porn at the fucking library, Kevin. I don't know what libraries you were at. I don't know where you went to school.
Right.
Okay. Here we go. Allowing parents or physicians to reassign, he puts it in scare quotes, the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. For public institutions to use taxpayer dollars. I hate when Republicans say that. To declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, and religions is a violation of the Constitution and civil rights law and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. I think he's talking about affirmative action there. This is a guy, by the way, who has a doctorate in history and wrote a dissertation about slavery in Louisiana, which is really weird.
So what woman didn't touch him that he wanted? What happened? Who
rejected
said woman, but
you? I don't know.
Who rejected you? Your mother? Was it your mother?
He's a very nice guy. Apparently, that's what everybody says. Okay.
Who was it?
Here we go. This is the pull quote. Everybody's paying attention. You know, get back in front of the screen and listen to this. This is important. Finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-family win in a generation, overturning Roe v. Wade, a decision that for 5 decades made a mockery of our Constitution and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. Idiots. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. This is the conservative promise, you see. Conservatives, including in the next conservative administration, i.e. Trump if he wins, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support, while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. And then also, by the way, give guns to the kids so they can shoot each other in the schools and deny the parents any sort of, whatever. Okay. Here we go. This is the most ominous thing in the entire thing that I've read.
Okay.
Prepare yourself.
All right.
Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro-life and pro-family policies while recognizing the many women who find themselves in immensely difficult and often tragic situations and the heroism of every choice to become a mother. Alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. Do you want to parse that?
Yeah.
Do you want to parse this? Recognizing the many women who find themselves in immensely difficult and often tragic situations ain't the same thing as protecting them, making them safe, making sure they don't have to have their rapist
forcing motherhood. Forcing motherhood.
It's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
They're really we are getting into, and everyone throws this out there, but it's real. We are getting into Handmaid's Tale.
This is Handmaid's. This is fucking
Atwood there, because it's going to be that if you're a woman and you have ovaries that work and you have, your vessel for life, right, for hosting life, is going to actually become property of the state. I swear to God, this is where they're going, to where it's going to be, that's protecting life, because you can't have a baby without a womb. And so therefore that womb is the life that we have to protect, not you, the mother. You don't have agency in this because of your biology. We have to come in as the state and protect that, because a child can be born there and therefore must be born there. It's going to get into the must be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to, and then we're going to have not just forced birth, but forced pregnancy. I'm sorry. It sounds hysterical to say that.
No, it's not. It's written in the fucking document.
It's written.
Y'all are going to be livestock. You're going to be livestock.
Saying it in writing now.
Yeah.
They're putting it in writing, and the they is in a conspiratorial they. We've got names. We've got PACs, right? There's money. There's people. There's, there's agendas. There's organization. They have all kinds of financial backing. They have tentacles and hooks into the halls of power, from the Supreme Court to the, hopefully for them, a future presidency, to the Congress and to the federal representatives, senators and congressmen, right? So, and an entire political party in a two-party system. That's the they, is this force, this Christo-fascist force behind it, right, that is pushing for this version of America.
Yeah.
I said, and even my mom was like, oh God, you can't really believe it. I'm like, yeah, they're also coming from, if you pay attention to these far right forums and you just dip your toe in there and look at what and that's not even far right, it's just the Republican Party, right? Where they chat with one another. From their thought leaders, there's several of them that they have, like Charlie Kirk and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not naming him specifically in this, I'm just giving him as an example of one. There are thought leaders in the Republican Party that the party pays attention to, much like they did with Rush Limbaugh, that have been for years now, we're going on years now, pushing for women's right to vote to be reversed. That's also on there.
It's originalism, though. Sorry.
Yeah, well, this is you doing the well then. If they try that, then this magic.
No. I'm not well denning.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm pretending
thing.
I'm one of them. It's in the Constitution. You're not allowed to vote.
There's no magical thing that will stop that, guys. There's nothing to stop these folks. We're seeing it on a daily basis. Because why? Because they have their justices on the Supreme Court, because they have their judges in the circuit courts, because they have their officials, their list of people that you have there that they want to put into power as soon as they have the presidency again, to run all of our agencies, of which they're going to dismantle. And because Donald didn't get
they're going to dismantle. That's in there too. They're just firing everybody,
getting rid of all these things. They have their congressmen, they have their senators, they have their money. They have a lot of money, and they are very focused and very organized. Yeah. And we're here to scare the fuck out of you about all this, because it's real. The hero, the complex of, someone's going to show up and save us, is whatever we can do to break everybody out of all of that and keep you motivated to go and vote and bring 5 to 10 to 20 people with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
I want to read one more part of this, and then I have something quick to say, and then we'll.
Okay.
Okay. I know we're running late.
We're running late.
Again, this is Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise, the Heritage Foundation document by Kevin Roberts. This Wilsonian hubris, which I don't even know what the fuck that means, has spread like a cancer through many of America's largest corporations, its public institutions, and its popular culture. Those who run our so-called American corporations have bent to the will of the woke agenda and care more for their foreign investors and organizations than their American workers and customers. Today, nearly every top-tier U.S. university president or Wall Street hedge fund manager has more in common with a socialist European head of state than with the parents at a high school football game in Waco, Texas. To which I say, good. I fucking hope so. Okay. Many elites' entire identity, it seems, is wrapped up in their sense of superiority over those people. But under our Constitution, they are the mere equals of the workers who shower after work instead of before. Like, this guy's a man of the fucking people all of a sudden with his, let's.
Yeah. We've heard all of these buzzwords before. This is a cult. These are cult
intellectual sophistication, advanced degrees, financial success, and all other markers of elite status have no bearing on a person's knowledge of the one thing most necessary for governments, what it means to live well. So, fuck everybody smart, fuck everybody talented. We just want dumb shits who believe the stuff that we believe, and that's what we're going to promote. One more thing, real quick, before we go. Right now, there seems to be a coordinated attack on people who are reporting about this. And by this, I mean this Project 2025, Roberts, the people, the Christian nationalist people that are behind this, the Leonard Leo faction that are behind this, okay? Yeah. Heidi Prisbilla of Politico went on MSNBC, and now she's under attack because it wasn't that. It was like she said that they believe that their power is through God or something. And then they were like, our founding documents the law says that the Declaration of Independence says that the Creator gave us the da-da-da. And they talk about it. This is in their criticism of her, as I understand it, because I don't really understand it, but they talk about the Declaration of Independence as a founding document of the Constitution, and it's not actually. The Declaration of Independence, in terms of how the government is just a Dear John letter. It's just like, dude, George, we're out. It doesn't have any basis. The Constitution says we the people. It doesn't mention God and all that shit. So they're conflating two things. But there is an attack. It's Ruth Marcus of Washington Post also being attacked because she's also delved into this. So, when you have these people that appear to be, pushing back on journalists who are investigating them, first of all, don't listen to them. Second of all, it probably means that these people are on the right track and should keep on doing the good work, because we can't allow this group of weirdos, no matter, to foist their crazy ass belief system on the rest of us. Yeah. They want to believe stuff in the privacy of their own homes. God bless them. Go to town.
Well, let's talk about this in the after hours in terms of, one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, and I think we just need a whole show for some of these things, is, we're living through the formation of and the surfacing of a real Nazi movement. Yeah. In terms of, I'm talking about the politicians. I know that in this country we have had the neo-Nazis and the skinheads, and that's just hate. This is power. So what kind of individuals show up for this kind of, to push for this kind of country with all this buzzwords, all this stuff, that are pursuing it through the halls of political power, and pursuing that kind of control and those kinds of positions through the halls of political power, not, burning a cross on a farm somewhere or getting in fights, in LA. But this and what, what we have, and we have with Stephen Miller, an example of now we can kind of see who the Nazi party was in real time. I think it's a very particular type of person. Yeah. And, it's the kid in class that spread glue on his arms and peeled it off and ate it. That's what they are. That's who they are.
What did you say? The unfuckable horde.
The unfuckable horde. And of course, in there, they can't not write even their own little, manifesto without mentioning the elites who have everything and they look down on us, because it's the kid who couldn't get an invitation to sit at the table.
Yeah.
Right. And took that experience and did this with it. There's a lot of, line forms to the left of being bullied in school and, all this kind of stuff, or maybe being neurodiverse or being different. It doesn't mean you end up like this. Yeah. But everyone who ends up like this is coming from there. It's like something, they didn't have the occupational therapy they needed. They didn't have the support from their parents that they needed. They were maybe in a bad environment in terms of the education around them. So the nurturing of what could have been real gifts for them, and also helping them understand that, like those American Idol contestants in the early days of American Idol, in the early years, would show up and think they could sing, or the little girl, and it's like, it's like, that's not your gift, but you do have gifts, and we're going to nurture you towards that. And you're, and love you there to get there. that something happened here with these folks, and they never got that nurturing or that direction, that support. So there's a sadness there, but they're all grown up and they're looking to fucking kill us all, or they take over my womb and try to like, they're horrible, or like, oh, okay, it's going to be tragic if you're raped, but that doesn't mean we're not going to rape you. We're just going to rape you, force you to have the babies. And that's what your whole point of existence is, women. And then of course you can't vote because you're livestock, and livestock doesn't get to vote. So now we know. We weren't there in 1920s and 1930s Germany as that party was forming. It's like, who are these people really? But, because then once you're in power, you can attract the strong jaw, the guy that might have been a movie star, but he's just kind of a bigot, so he ends up in your camp. You might attract that person, but it doesn't start with those folks.
No,
it doesn't start there.
It does not.
It starts with the big-headed Charlie Kirk with the eyes that are too close together. It starts there.
Comb your hair. Buy a comb, Charlie Kirk.
It starts there.
I don't know. I have thoughts about this, and if you want to hear my thoughts about this, you have to go to the after hours, because
you got to go to the after hours to hear the thoughts. Because
I'm going to end with a line from that I quoted in the piece today from Casablanca, when Ilsa says to Rick, "One woman has hurt you, and you're taking it out on the rest of the world."